Formula One's the highest level of racing in the world, and it's had some of the most exciting moments in sports. Some of the most famous and heartbreaking moments in F1 happen on the last lap. As we watch from the stands, drivers compete on the tracks for the ultimate title. With this in mind, we're going to dive deep into the top 10 most watched final laps in F1. First off, we've got the Rosberg and Hamilton clash in 2016. The last lap of the 2016 Austrian Grand Prix has been watched more than 8.6 million times. This makes it the most watched final lap. As the two drivers battled for first place, Rosberg got hit in the front wing, which made him slow down. Carbon fiberglass shattered all over the track, which helped Hamilton's team, so he raced ahead and ended up in first place. Ferrari took the lead, but Fernando Alonso's big crash in the middle of the race stopped the race, which helped Mercedes' Nico Rosberg win what had seemed like an unlikely victory. Lewis Hamilton came back from a bad start to finish second, while Sebastian Vettel, who led into turn 1 and looked in charge before the red flags, had to settle for third after 57 laps of Albert Park. Up next, Verstappen's final lap in 2021. With over 8.2 million views, Max Verstappen's final lap against Lewis Hamilton at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in 2021 is the second most watched final lap in Formula One. Hamilton and Verstappen tied in a race for first place to become world champions. As the Red Bull and Mercedes teams watched the tense final lap, they were all hoping that their driver would get a chance to pull away and take the lead. After a controversial restart of the race, Verstappen pulled away from Hamilton in the last few seconds of the last lap to take first place and become the first Dutch world champion, followed by Hamilton at the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2008. Even though the race leader hadn't changed, this is still one of the most exciting last laps we've ever seen. Hamilton needed to finish fifth in the last race of the season to win his first title. The year before, he almost missed out on the same situation, but nature wasn't about to make things easy. Heavy rain fell during the last few laps of a wet, dry race, and after a pit stop, the young Briton came back in fifth. On lap 69 of 71, another young driver named Vettel passed him, and it looked like Hamilton would miss out again as Felipe Massa won the race and became the champion. Timo Glock, on the other hand, didn't stop for wet tires, so Hamilton was able to pass him on the last corner of the last lap of the last race to get back into fifth place and win the championship. Moving on to Jenson Button in 2011. Jenson Button's known for his smooth driving, which has become a sign of success in a wide range of conditions. In 2006, he won his first race at the dangerous Hungaroring track. In 2010, he did great on both wet and dry tracks in Australia and China. The longest race in the history of the sport came down to the very last second. After many safety cars and a full 2-hour delay because of heavy rain, Vettel started the final lap with Button right behind him. This was a little over 4 hours after the race started. Button had to stop no less than 6 times, and at one point he was in last place. However, his skill in the difficult conditions helped him cut through the field, and which forced Vettel to make a mistake halfway around the last lap. At turn 6, the German went too far past the right and hit a wet spot. Button was able to pass him and win an amazing race. Next, Hungarian Grand Prix in 1997. At the Hungaroring in 1997, Damon Hill was so close to being the best underdog story of all time. Hill was fired by Williams at the end of 1996, even though he just won the World Championship. Then, he joined the struggling Arrows team, where he was inspired by the big plans of the new boss, Tom Walkinshaw. But things didn't go as planned, and by the 11th race of the season, the champion only had 1 point. He was in the lead for most of the race. This was because of problems with the tires, the fact that other drivers quit, and Hill's skill. But, with just a few laps left, his hydraulic pump broke, and Villeneuve passed Hill painfully on the last tour to give Arrows its first win ever. In the end, the problem was found to be a broken washer worth 50 pence. Not to mention the 1971 Italian Grand Prix. The race with the closest finish ever was the Italian Grand Prix in 1971. It was also the last time the original layout was used for the Italian Grand Prix. The high speeds reached that year led to the addition of 2 chicanes in 1972 as a safety measure. Because of the fast speeds, the field split into groups, with 8 drivers in the front group. Peter Gethin, Ronnie Peterson, Francois Savert, Mike Halewood, and Howden Ganley fought all the way to the end, moving in and out of each other's slipstreams. They all crossed the finish line within 0.61 seconds of each other. The top 4 were separated by less than 0.2 of a second, and Gethin won his only F1 race by 0.01 seconds. He never got that high in the championship again, and he ended his F1 career with a single race for Graham Hill's team. At the end of the season, he had 30 starts, 1 win, and 11 points. Let's learn more about the Monaco Grand Prix in 1982. At the 1982 Monaco Grand Prix, it seemed like no one wanted to win. With 3 laps left and rain starting to fall, Alain Prost lost control of the lead and spun out, giving it to Riccardo Patrese. 1 lap later, the Italian also lost control of the lead and spun out. Didier Pironi was now in first place, but his car would run out of of gas on the last lap. Andrea de Cesaris would have taken over the lead, but he'd run out of gas. And Derek Daly, who was next in line, had just pulled out of the race because his gearbox broke. James Hunt said, "It's ridiculous that we're all waiting at the start-finish line for a winner to come by, but we don't seem to be getting one." Still, Patrese was able to get his car going again, and he won his first race in the end. Coming up, the Italian Grand Prix of 1967. This was one of Jim Clark's best races, but he was cruelly robbed of the win. The Scot was in the lead until the 12th lap when he got a flat tire and lost a whole lap. Then, for the next 48 laps, he fought his way through the field at an amazing rate. When he finally got to the front, he pulled away. His bad luck didn't end there, though. On the last lap, a broken fuel pump slowed him down a lot, which let John Surtees and Jack Brabham pass him. Surtees won by less than a car length at the finish line, and it turned out to be his last win. Clark came in third, which was good enough for him. Next, the Canadian Grand Prix in 1991. Nigel Mansell lost a sure win in Montreal 30 years ago when he stalled coming out of the hairpin. At the start of the last lap, he was almost a minute ahead of Nelson Piquet, but he didn't seem to be paying attention at the beginning of the lap. He waved to the crowds as he drove slowly around the track. As the hairpin came up, Mansell only had to win one more lap to win the race. But he slowed down going through the hairpin, and he couldn't get the car going again. He was forced to pull over and stop when he slammed his hands into the steering wheel. He got out of the car and watched Piquet take the lead and win the race. Officially, the stoppage was caused by a broken gearbox, but some stories say that Mansell took the hairpin in 6th gear and let the revs drop too low. Finally, the 1970 Monaco Grand Prix crash. In South Africa, Brabham won the first race of his last F1 season, 1970. In Spain, he qualified first, but his engine broke, so he had to give up. Monaco was the third Grand Prix of the season. From lap 27, Brabham was in the lead, but at the end of the race, Jacques and Rindt gave him a hard time. Even 45 years ago, it wasn't easy to pass someone in Monaco, and Brabham kept Rindt from passing him until the very end of the race. As the leaders got close to the last turn, called the gasometer, they caught up to some slower cars, and Brabham slid to the side and hit a wall. Rindt took the checkered flag while the Australian tried desperately to turn around. Brabham got back on track and ended up in second place, but he never won another Grand Prix. Rindt would win 4 more times before he died during qualifying for the 1970 Italian Grand Prix. He won 5 races that year, which was enough to win a driver's championship after he died. That's a wrap for this video. Which of these final laps did you replay the most? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We'll see you in the next one.